igniting curiosity, sparking connection, driving action.
That is 3 Second Selling, and this is the 3 Second Selling Podcast.
Now here's your host and author of the 3 Second Selling Platform, David G.
Trust as currency in high-stakes decisions. Welcome to 3 Second Selling, the podcast about attention, trust, and what it really takes to stand out in a crowded, distracted, and often skeptical world. I'm your host, David G., and today's conversation is about something that matters in every business, every relationship, and especially every high-stakes decision, and that is trust. Because when stakes are low, people make casual choices. When the stakes are high, when money is involved, when uncertainty is in the air, when outcomes matter, trust becomes everything. And let's be honest, financial services is one of those categories where trust is not a nice to have. It's the whole game. People aren't just handing over dollars. They're handing over their hopes, their fears, their plans, their family, their future. And that's why I'm glad to have this conversation today with Thomas Cox, owner of Cox Capital and host of the Owners Table podcast. Welcome to the show.
David, thank you so much. That was great. I appreciate it.
In your world, it's full of jargon, performance, strategy, returns, growth planning, spreadsheets, all that. When somebody is deciding to work with you, how much of that decision moves away from the spreadsheets and the return rates and all of that, past performance, and into simply, do I trust this person?
So I was a football coach for 10 years. And one of the things that in that culture, in that world, is storytelling. So let me answer your question with a story. Can I do that?
Awesome. I love stories, of course.
So was doing a seminar on retirement. So it was about just the risks in retirement and what the crowd faces. So we had a room full of 55s and ups. And we were getting ready to do it. My wife looks at me. I was sitting in the bathroom, sitting on my little stool. She was sitting at this sink, leaned up against the sink, and she goes, "What do you want people to feel when you're up there presenting?" And I go, "I want to be relatable. I want to come across as trusting. I want to come across as genuine. And I want them to, at some point, feel a little bit tense, but also I want them to laugh. So I want all of those things." So that's the story. Let me answer the question. They're buying me. They're buying Thomas. And so I may say things sometimes that may not resonate with someone right there, but I may just be in that person's head on my left to where they fully resonate with who I am as a human being, the story that I told, the fact that I coached college football. I grew up in Birmingham, whatever, but they're buying me because the guy down the road's got most of the same financial tools that I do. Now, I'll say this. It really, really helps to become an authority in your space. You got to know your crap. Just because you're a nice guy and you're believable and you're attractive or whatever the things are, doesn't mean you're the best fit for the job. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're doing. And so I think a combination of those things is what builds trust.
I love stories. We remember stories 22 times more than features and facts and info. So I love to illustrate a point with a story. I didn't know that about your background. I just knew about the financial piece. But as you say that, I can really see that. And I can see lots of correlations between parents trusting their young men with you and a staff and sitting there in their living room when you're recruiting and saying, this is what I can do for your young man, not only on the football field, but, in terms of molding them into a person. So that authenticity, that believability, when, ultimately you're trying to sell somebody on something, the program, the school, all of those things, yourself, your staff. But authenticity really wins the day, doesn't it?
Yeah, because people typically can see through something that's
Yeah.
inauthentic. And being able to sit in the home of a kid that grew up with what I used to call a 3-car garage, and then being able to also sit in a home where the
Yeah.
mom is in jail, the dad is never in the picture, and the grandmother
Yeah.
who watches this kid has been in and out of jail. But then also being able to the next day to communicate to the players that are in your room that you're sweating with and bleeding with all throughout practice in the season. So you've got to be able to go from room to room to room,
Mhm.
and A, be yourself, but B, meet people where they are. My old boss, okay, Chuck Amato, love him. He's wonderful. He's retired since then, the old football coach. He goes, Thomas, you can't treat them all the same. All this bull
Yeah.
crap about treating the players the same. Thomas, you can't treat them all the same. Well, he's right, because everybody responds to different things. Being a college football coach and being in finance is a psychological game as much as it is anything. So you being able to play the psychological game of being able to roll with whoever you're talking to and being able to change in the drop of a hat is incredibly critical. Incredibly critical. And the ones that can do it from room to room to room are the ones that are typically successful in any walk of life, not just finance or football.
Yeah, I love that. Let's stay on that credibility piece. When you think about, you have already mentioned that there's a bit of a sea of sameness there is in my world in sales and marketing, particularly now that we're spitting out all this content that's AI generated. It's hard to stand out. There is a definite sea of sameness. We're subject to between 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 marketing messages a day. I mean, we're just flooded with information. You say that in your business, there's also, the same return rates, the same tools, the same, basic processes that you're going to. So what do you think? We've already talked about, I think that you come across as an authentic person. With that comes credibility. But what do you think in your business really builds credibility and what can damage it?
Number one is experience. And number two is validation. So I'll give you a great example. We have a hard money fund. So we loan money to people that flip houses in and around Birmingham and out in the state of Alabama. So we've got some criteria. Number one is they got to be recommended by somebody. I'm probably not picking you up and lending you money if I see you on Instagram. That's number one. You got to be recommended by somebody. Number two, I'm going to sit what we call belly to belly with you and have a meal and just ask questions to you and who you are. So I want to sit face to face with you. That's number two. Number three is so I've got one or two closing attorneys in Birmingham that if you've done any kind of real estate business in Birmingham, you've went through this guy's office, one of these two guys' office at some point. And if that guy, one of those two guys can't validate you as a human, I'm not doing a deal with you. Right. So it's the same thing in business. You need to have experience, number one, but then number two, someone validating that you've done a good job for them is extremely critical. That's why it's really, really difficult in financial services, whether you're in insurance, you're a FA or whatever, it's really, really difficult to start. Charlie Nallen, the guy that started the firm that we work out of, I want to say Charlie's 83 years old. He's incredible. He's a wonderful man of God and just incredibly wise. He said, if you can make it past 3 years in insurance and finance, you can make a great living. And him being 83 years old, I'm sitting in the office talking to the ladies the other day, and he said, hey, come here. He pulls me in his office and just sits with me for 7 or 8 minutes and just asks me a couple questions. Say, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Great. Hey, you need to think about doing this. So just having that experience that you can lean on, but also getting past the hurdles in the first part of your life is incredibly important, because when people start telling other people about how great you are at said thing,
Yeah.
it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, brand champion. I mean, in any business, if that is the holy grail, when you can have other people advocating for
Oh,
you on your part. I mean,
game changer.
that's more effective than any social media post or any form of advertising. It is absolutely that kind of referral and those kinds of affirmations are gold for sure. You seem like a super honest, kind of straight shooter guy. I'm getting that vibe from you. I've tried to run my businesses that way. Before I was a professional keynote speaker, had my own PR consulting business for many years, and I would be very honest with clients. And yeah, I want a retainer. I work for money.
Yeah.
It's not a nonprofit, but I also can't feel good about taking someone's money if I can't give them a good return on it. So I had plenty of conversations in conference rooms with CEOs and entrepreneurs and business owners where I would say, you know what, I'd be glad to take your money, but I don't think this particular campaign or this particular platform or whatever is going to that I can give you your money's worth, that I can deliver it. So let's try to look at it another way. Or, if you think it's not a fit, I'll recommend, a couple of agencies that do similar things and you can try with them. But I just don't think I'd be interested in taking that job. In your chair, do you find that clients respect that kind of honesty where you say, hey, I can't predict everything, I can't promise anything, but here's how we think, here's how we prepare, here's how we respond, here's the process now, go and like you said, belly to belly, and then, you walk away and make a decision. Talk about that process with clients.
So what we do is we specialize in infinite banking, which is, creating your own bank in your ecosystem, in your business, in your investing world, in your life. So, David, it's not for everybody. It's not for someone that makes $72,000 a year that has zero dollars at the end of the month. It's not for you. It's just not. And so I have to have that conversation. So I had a call the other day. I'll tell you this story. Call of the day. She says, I've seen all your videos and I've got this money here and I want to, can I do these things with this money? So, well, let's look at it and see. I said, because kind of like the difference in going to, go and get a custom suit. Infinite banking is a custom suit. It is. You can't go to Nordstrom and pull something off the rack for what we're doing. Yeah. This is a custom suit. And what are custom suits? They're expensive. But when they fit, they're perfect. So I said, I just sat with her for 45 minutes. I was like, hey, girl, I said, I don't think this is for you right now. I said, you make good money, but you've gotten yourself into a hole financially. And with consumer debt, it becomes a little bit more difficult to practice this. Now, in 18 months or 24 months, would you be a candidate? Absolutely. But you've got to clean some things up. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if people are very, very unorganized with their finances, I'm just saying, hey, Susie, here's what we're going to do. You need to sit down and you need to get the proverbial ducks in a row. You need to know, hey, what's your revenue? What's your profit margin? How much are you saving every month? On a good month, what are you saving? On a bad month, what are you saving? How much are you invested? You got to be organized financially to work with us. That's the second thing. And then the third thing I tell people all the time, I say, hey, look, I typically would not have an in-depth conversation with you about this unless you're qualified. So if I'm talking to you more than one time about this, you're qualified. So understand that. And lastly, I have to look at people's situation that even though, like, for example, so part of what we do with infinite banking is it's based off of insurance and based off of insurability. And, one of my best friends in the world is an incredible athlete. I mean, he's run 3 Ironmans in the last 4 years, but he's got a eye disease that makes him really, really not uninsurable, but just expensively insured. And wow. We just sat with him and looked at his plan. And I just looked at him. I said, hey, bro, I said, I'm being honest with you. If this was my pro forma, this is my plan, this is what it looked like, I wouldn't do it. I said, we need to find someone that we can insure better than you? I said, because this doesn't add up financially. He's like, I appreciate it. So we started working down the path, and we're going down that path and scoring. So all that being said is like, that's where the expertise comes in of me figuring out, hey, David is not a fit for this situation, but there are all these other things out there. I've looked at many of people and just said, hey, this is not great for you right now, but maybe down the road we can get together again. And that, I think that builds some credibility with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to go back and unpack two things that you said that I think are really, really good and worth digging a little deeper on. I love that I think it's a great convention and method to talk about at the outset of a conversation who you are not for. I'm writing a 3-second selling book, and my first author coach said right up front, tell them who this book is not for. And it seems kind of counterintuitive, like, well, I'm trying to build an audience, not shrink it. But he said, no, just be upfront. This is who the book is for. This is who it is not for. He said that is a really effective way to get into a conversation. And the other part is I love how you are a trusted advisor. Yeah, you're not going to become a customer today, but let me give you some advice just because that's who I am. And I care about you as a person. I want you to succeed. And when we play that role, more times than not, eventually that in ways that we understand and ways we don't, business comes back to us after playing that role. So I love that piece of being trusted advisor. I think it's so important, and I can see you excelling in that. Is that something that just kind of came naturally, or is it a deliberate thing? Talk a little bit more about that, if you
want to talk about the selfish answer or the honest answer. Which one you want to talk about? Which one you want to talk about first? Yeah. The selfish answer or the honest answer? The selfish answer is when people are not ready for what we do, it's way more work. Number one. And two, they become a liability for us and themselves. Gotcha. That's the selfish answer. Number one, it's not worth my time because they can't physically, financially afford the strategy that we're putting together. That's the selfish answer. So I don't want Susie to do this deal or be in this concept because it's going to be really difficult for me to help pull her out of the proverbial mud. Okay, that's the first thing. The second, the honest answer is, I remember a coach when my first job out of college. I was 22, 23 years old. First job out of college, Philip Ironside, wonderful man, still coaching in Georgia to this day. He used this term, and I was only 23 and I had never heard this term before. And he was talking about a concept, and we had these offensive linemen, and these offensive linemen were really good run blockers. They were heavy, they ran well, but they were short. They couldn't what they call pass block really well. And he said, he looked at us, he says, Coach, if we're wanting to throw the ball 34 times a game, he says, we're setting these kids up for failure. I'd never heard the term setting them up for failure. What have you always heard? Set them up for success. I'm going to set you up for success. I'm setting them up for failure. When I put people in the wrong thing financially, I am setting them up for failure. Yeah. And that's the last thing that I want to do is set someone up for failure. For sure. Because I get them in said thing or get them involved in said strategy, and then they don't succeed. I'm the freaking bad guy. Why? Because I'm the expert. And if I'm the expert and I'm setting them up for failure, then I'm not really, I haven't done the right thing. I've made a little money, but number one, I've proverbially pissed that referral source away. I don't want to do that. You never want to get rid of a referral source. Clients are hard enough to come by, David. I mean, good, honest. Clients are hard enough to come by. So why would I want to make a bad client, So
exactly. Yeah, I love that. Let's go a layer deeper, because money is never just about money. It's emotion, it's identity, it's security, it's our future, it's fear, it's freedom. It's all of these things. So when people come to you, they might be looking for new financial strategies. They might be looking for a different way to skin the proverbial cat, but underneath, they're really kind of looking to say, okay, am I going to be okay? How am I going to, even if you have affluent clients? I mean, lots of people I know who are multimillionaires still have, some form of financial insecurity. I think it's just kind of part of human nature. So how much of your role is kind of emotional leadership? Again, not just guiding people through the spreadsheets and the returns and the numbers, but really dealing with them on a different level.
This old equipment manager that I had when I was playing and when I was a coach, his name was Dog Daggett. His name was John. They speak of the devil. They hear that dog? He heard me say that, and then he started barking.
Oh my gosh, that dog never barks. And of course, I'm recording a podcast, and
you need to leave this section in here. Yeah, leave it in here. So, but dog used to say, he'd say about our players. Dog would say, Thomas, they don't know, and they don't know they don't know. It's the same way with affluent clients and non-affluent clients. Yeah. So we are all products of 0 to about 14 to 17. Okay. The gray matter in our brains is a sponge during those years, especially in the younger years. And so we are programmed a certain way. The hardest part about learning anything, David, is unlearning what you thought you knew. It's why you want to tell your kids about sex really, really early. It's why you want to tell your kids about money really, really early. It's why you want to have, as a parent and as a spouse, you want to have a healthy relationship with money early so that you can then communicate that to whoever it is. Okay. So people don't know because of the way they're programmed. And so what we have to do, as much as anything, is we become teacher and educator first and foremost. That's the first thing. The second thing is we become and I hate to say this, we become a future seer. Okay, what are they called? The people that read their palms or crystal balls. What are they called? Yeah, palm readers or soothsayers.
Yeah.
Buddy of mine said, but I was in Colorado. A buddy of mine said that building right there was the local palm reader. I go, what happened? He goes, she went out of business. And he looks at me and he goes, the bad thing is she never saw it coming. So we have to. Sorry.
Love that.
This is a dad joke, I guess.
Hey, dad jokes are welcome.
So what we have to do a lot of times is we usually can see around the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
We can usually see around the corner. Our kids don't see around the corner. They don't understand why they need to go to bed at 9:15. They don't understand, as athletes, why they need to drink 100 ounces of water a day. They don't understand that. Why? Well, because you're drinking today and you're eating today for whatever it is you're doing tomorrow. So sorry to get on a tangent, but as fiduciaries or people that are taking care of clients, just like you are, we see around the corner. And because what happens is that when they can't see around the corner, David, they start to panic. And so after being an educator, we now have to be a psychologist and say, hey, let's pump the brakes. Here's what's coming. And then here's what happens. When you can really see what's coming and then you can convey to them what's coming and then it actually happens, you become a genius in their eyes. And if that happens, you are then become more than just a trusted advisor. You become a friend. You become a confidant. They start telling you personal stories about their life. And at that point, it becomes where the trust is so high that the problem is this, is people that are evil in this business or in your business or any business, they take advantage of that trust. We got to stay true. And we got to stay patient to what we're doing. That's one of the biggest things.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. Love that. And you mentioned pump the brakes. I'll have a little analogy of my own. I'm a Formula One fan, and you can listen during these broadcasts during the races to the pit communication between the driver and the crew chief or race engineer. And the drivers will complain during the race, like, "Hey, why didn't we pit? Why didn't we take tires? What?" And this, race engineer is sitting there with a bank of monitors. They've got the weather. They've got, telemetry from 150 points on the car. They've got all the other positions. I mean, they are seeing the whole picture, and that driver in the car is just seeing out the windshield of what's in front of them. So that is always their response. Like, we discussed this, stick with the strategy. We talked about this. I'm seeing around corners. You're seeing,
45 feet
what's
in front
of you right now. So yeah, exactly. So analogous. A lot of people listening are business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs, professionals who likely aren't in financial services, but as we've talked about, they're still in the trust business. So let me broaden this. If you were giving advice to any leader trying to build credibility with clients, teams, partners during uncertain, skeptical times, what are 2 or 3, and I know we've kind of covered some of them, but what are 2 or 3 kind of bedrock principles that you would tell them never to waver from and never to forget?
Never forget, in the very first meeting, you need to do 10% of the talking.
I love that.
So
yes.
The person who asks the questions is in control of the conversation. So if you can ask the questions, you can control the conversation. It's like the story of the guy sitting at the bar. 2 guys are sitting at the bar. One guy comes up after his, after sitting there for 2 or 3 hours, and guy A says, you are the nicest guy that I've ever met. I feel like we are absolutely just best friends at this point. Thank you so much. It's such a great time talking to you. What was your name again?
Hey, that's happened.
Because the person that controls the conversation is the one that's asking all the questions. So how many times have you been in a lunch where at the end of the lunch, happens to me twice a week, at the end of the lunch, they say, "God, David, we got to do this again. I feel like I don't know hardly anything about you." That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you can control the conversation, especially in conversation one, when you can control the conversation, it helps them feel more comfortable with you. So be the question asker, and I'm gonna be honest with you, cheat. Go on ChatGPT or go on one of these AI models and say, "Hey, this is what I meet with David. He lives in Bethesda, Maryland. His wife moved. They live 11 miles from the so and so. He's in marketing and so and so. Give me 5 base questions that I can keep him talking for 45 minutes." Yeah. Seriously, like that sounds like, but do it, because you are the most interesting person in your life. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, when speaking to someone, make sure that you say their name. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example, David. I've probably said your name 5 or 6 times, and you've said mine once. Is that a bad thing? Yeah. No, I'm just being extremely intentional about saying your name, using your name in an example. Those things. Why? How to Win Friends and Influence People. Oh, shoot, what's his name? The book. Dale Carnegie. One of his guiding principles in that book, we've probably both read it 5 times, is the sweetest sound to a person's ears is the sound of his own. So if I can say your name,
love that,
and I can control the conversation so that you're talking 90% of the time, then trust is psychologically built in that situation.
I had a mentor early on in my business career that said, if you're not listening, you're not learning. And I believe that, I deal in sales and marketing, and I absolutely am convinced that listening, being curious, is our sales
Sure.
superpower. And yet when we go to trade shows, and I go to boat shows, I go to trade shows with clients, and I just walk up and down the aisles, and these people are just showering these people with features and specs and info and infill and testimonials. And if I just give you enough information, being the smart person you are, you will conclude you should do business with me. And that's just not the way that we make buying decisions. It's the wrong, we're trying to appeal to the wrong side of the brain. So I so love that you point out listening, because I truly believe that it is the key that unlocks business relationships of all sort, with our spouses, with our kids, with our colleagues, our coworkers, whatever. So level up your listening. Be intentional about that.
Let me give you 2 easy tips. Okay. Number 1, when your wife comes home, or you come home, or you see your wife, never ask the question, how was your day? Always ask the question, hey, tell me about your day. And then shut up. That's number 1. That's kids, that's spouse, that's everybody. That's the first thing. The second thing is, just about any question, any inquisitive question that you ask a client or a potential client or someone that you're trying to sell something to, can almost always be started with, David, tell me about. Hey, I mean, I'll rattle off 4 or 5. Hey, David, tell me about who is your ideal client? Hey, David, tell me about the type of industry that you really thrive in working in. And then whatever the answer to that question is tell me a little bit more about, you can go with that and just listen. Don't be so pigeonholed when asking these questions that you have to get to the next question, because 90% of the time you're going to say something that's going to spark another question. Because I don't understand your work. I don't understand. And the best thing, the most ego inflating thing that you can do is teach me about something that you know more about, because it makes you feel good about yourself. It's not a negative thing. It's just the way life is.
Right. Well, you had said my name 5 times, and I think you just upped it another 3 or 4. So the tally and the gap between us, Thomas, just it got wider. You know, I really enjoyed this conversation. What I appreciate about it is that even though the financial world can seem kind of technical and a little bit jargonistic and like it doesn't invite outsiders very well, the deeper truth is very human. You know, people want guidance, they want honesty, they want authenticity, and I'm telling you, you just bleed that. So to me, the larger lesson is trust isn't built by talking the most. We've talked about that. It's built by showing up with clarity and calmness and consistency and credibility, especially when things feel uncertain. Thanks so much for being here. I really enjoyed the
David,
conversation.
anything I can do to help you in the future, please let me know. And you're a really good question asker. Like at the end of I listen, you'll talk, and all of a sudden you bring it back in, and your questions are easy to answer. So you're doing a good job. So keep it up.
Well, thank you. And I do want to make mention of something that kind of doesn't matter, but I want to mention it anyway. Thomas has a producer, an assistant that reached out. I was on a podcast list back in January and said, "Hey, Thomas might be interested in I'm trying to work your name in here."
So you're trying to up Danny, trying to get back
might
even.
be interested in being a guest on your podcast, and here's what he does. And at first blush, it's like, man, I don't. Yeah, trust is important in your business and my business. Don't see the fit. So he came back and said, no, let's keep talking about this. And so I gave a framework of a conversation, and then you came back in an email. We hadn't conversed a whole lot. You came back with an email and said, yeah, I'm not sure this is a great fit. And honestly, I considered replying to that and say, hey, let's just punt. It's okay. Not everybody's a fit for everybody's conversation, but I was fascinated as we dug in that you talk about things I talk about all the time: becoming a trusted advisor, who this is not for, your ideal client, listening, insatiably curious, the discovery process. I mean, you touched on so many things I talk about all the time, and it was unscripted, unprepared, unplanned for, and I love it. It's just one of the miracles of the universe when we have these kinds of conversations and these things enter the chat, so to speak, out of nowhere. It's affirming, it's exciting, and it's just so enjoyable.
Here's the thing. It's all the same. Whether you're selling apples
you're right.
or you're selling annuities, it's all the same. Preachers sell Jesus. Parents sell bedtime. Like, it's all the same. Like, it is all the same. But if we can make sure, there's two things we'll leave everybody with. Number one, and you touched on it once or twice before. Number one, be a listener. Like, understand, like, hear what David is saying. Be a really, really good listener. That's the first thing. And I'm going to be honest with you. Something I feel like you do a really good job at is you don't say words that are unnecessary. We've been 39 minutes into this conversation, and I don't know your filler word. Everybody's got one. I don't know your filler word. That's a good sign. Slow down. Mm-hmm. Awkward pauses are okay.
Absolutely.
Because what they do is they bring you back into the conversation. So I'm going to give a recommendation for everybody out there. So a friend of mine who is worth over $100 million, he gets invited to this conference in Canada. It's like 40 people. And these guys are 100 million and above net worth, some billionaires. And I said, all right, unpack it for me. Like, what did you learn? And one of the things that he learned was, he said, here's what you need to do. He said, you need to go get this book called by a guy named Matthew Dix. It's called Stories Sell. And he just talked about so many different, I can't even mention them all. So many different things in the book about communication and telling stories and different things like that. And one of the things he talked about was the pause brings the conversation more focus. Because what happens is, the Peanuts cartoon, when we were kids, right? Whack, 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 whack. You don't hear anything. And if there's a continual flow of words, you quit listening. But if there's a pause for you or a pause for me to answer and gather my thoughts, it breaks up the monotony of the conversation. And when you can do that, you can bring everybody back in, and it makes the whole thing go smooth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I every good keynote speaker that I know, if they don't build pauses into their presentation, they're certainly making use of them. It's a great way to just kind of bring people back in. If you see people looking on their phones, or you're kind of losing them for whatever reason, it's a great way to re-engage people. My guest today, Thomas Cox, owner of Cox Capital and host of his own Owner's Table podcast. Be sure to check that out as well. And thanks to you, Thomas. I really appreciated you being here.
Glad it worked out.
And thanks to all of you for listening to this version of 3 Second Selling. If the conversation resonated, share it with someone who leads, sells, advises, or simply wants to communicate with more trust in a skeptical world. Because in the end, people don't give their time, their attention, their confidence, or their money to whoever talks the loudest. They give it to the people who build the trust, who feel the most believable, honest, and authentic. I'm David G. Thanks again for listening. We will see you next time. So long, everyone.